Did
God,
you?
no.
Really?
Fuck no. Sorry. We are uncensored, but oh my God, the idea there's any comparison between Diana, who was the biggest star in the world, probably, arguably.
Every royal scandal has a spark, a moment, a whisper, a tiny slip that sets everything ablaze. But what happened this week? This wasn't a spark. This was a fuse being lit by someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Because for the first time in years, Piers Morgan hasn't just commented on Meghan Markle. He hasn't criticised her. He hasn't mocked her. He has opened a vault of buried footage, unaired recordings, off-the-record confessions and interviews that the palace allegedly stepped in to block at the time. Material that should have been locked away forever. Material no one expected to resurface, especially not now.
I'm actually genuinely curious. Are there any fans of Meghan Markle in tonight?
No.
Oh, hang on. There is one lone hand has raised
Subversive.
up here.
And the terrifying part for Meghan? This wasn't an accidental leak. This was deliberate. Piers Morgan chose this moment. He chose this tape. He chose to drop it without warning. And he chose to post just 5 words afterward that made the entire internet stop breathing. There's much more where that came from. That's not commentary. That's not banter. That's a declaration of war. The moment the grainy clip surfaced, everything shifted. Not quietly, violently. The internet erupted. Journalists scrambled. Analysts started dissecting every frame. Voice experts began comparing tones, breaths, cadence. TikTok detectives stayed awake until 4 a.m. matching syllables. Because the clip wasn't vague. It wasn't ambiguous. It wasn't harmless. It was explosive. A blurred speaker. A sharpened voice. And one sentence that detonated Meghan's narrative like a landmine. She always said her plan was bigger than Harry. 6 words. 6 devastating words. Words that cut straight through the polished facade Meghan has maintained for years. That she was the innocent outsider, the overwhelmed new royal, the woman who never wanted fame. This clip suggested something else entirely: ambition, strategy, long-term planning. And according to insiders, that is exactly why Meghan reportedly panicked the moment the footage hits you. Because if there is one thing more dangerous than Piers Morgan's opinions, it is Piers Morgan with proof. And tonight, we're going into that proof. Where it came from, why it was buried, who the voice belongs to, and why this is only the beginning of something much bigger and far more explosive than anyone expected. To understand why this story is shaking the media world, you must understand one thing clearly. This interview wasn't cut because it was boring. It wasn't trimmed for timing. It wasn't lost in a filing cabinet. It wasn't dropped because it didn't matter. No, this was pulled. Deliberately, quietly, and, according to Piers' own words, because it wasn't cleared by the palace. That single detail sent a shockwave through every newsroom in Britain. Why would the palace intervene in a Piers Morgan interview? Why would they stop this footage from ever reaching the public? What were they protecting? Who were they protecting? And why did they think this would be a problem? People assumed Meghan's story began the day she met Harry, that she was simply an actress who stumbled into royalty, that her transition was innocent, sudden, naive. But this clip, this lost archive, hints at a different truth. A truth that was inconvenient. A truth that the palace clearly wanted to keep buried. A truth that showed Meghan as not just a participant in her story, but an architect. And that is exactly what makes this footage dangerous. The clip appears simple at first. Piers sitting across from a blurred figure, voice masked, lighting dim, timestamp in the corner, the kind of raw, unpolished footage only ever seen by producers and editors. The conversation begins innocently, general chatter, nothing pointed, but then the voice sharpens, as though someone forgot to blend one segment, and suddenly you hear it, clear as day. The line that turned the internet into a forensic crime lab. She always said her plan was bigger than Harry. Not alleged, not suggested, not implied. And that distinction is exactly what set Meghan's team into meltdown mode. Because this wasn't Piers accusing her. This wasn't a commentator giving an opinion. This wasn't a critic making noise online. This was someone from her past speaking on camera. Someone who knew her before the royal facade solidified. Someone who had been there during the early stages of her rise. Someone who remembered the blueprint. And that person's words, recorded years ago, sealed away by palace intervention, had now surfaced, uncensored, untouched, unforgiving. The reaction was immediate. Royal reporters began ringing their contacts. Producers scoured old emails, searching for references to this lost interview. Former palace staff whispered about the decision to block the footage. And social media lit up like a tinderbox. Theories exploded. Speculation soared. People demanded to know who was the voice. Why was the interview buried? What else did Piers record that never aired? But while the public spiraled with curiosity, Meghan's reaction was something else entirely. According to sources in Montecito, She didn't panic quietly. She didn't stay calm. She didn't wait for clarification. She detonated. This wasn't just an embarrassment, it was a threat. Because if one unaired clip existed, how many more did Piers have? How many interviews were blocked? How much had she said to people behind the scenes years ago? How many old allies might still be holding information? And why had Piers started with this clip? Why now? Why this year? Why this moment? The timing wasn't random. Piers Morgan doesn't do random. He does strategy. And the release of this tape wasn't an accident. It was a message, a warning shot, a statement of intent. And Meghan Markle, according to insiders, knew exactly what that meant. If Piers has more footage, the story she built is no longer hers to control. If Section 1 explained the blast, Section 2 is where we start to see the fallout, the internal chaos, the frantic calls, the late-night damage control that Meghan desperately hoped would never become public. Because the moment that unaired clip hit the internet, Meghan didn't simply react. She collapsed into crisis mode. Not the quiet kind, not the measured PR-friendly kind. The full Montecito panic, the kind insiders whisper about in hushed tones. According to sources close to her camp, Meghan's response wasn't shock. It was fury. Fury because she recognised the voice. Fury because she remembered the conversation. Fury because she never expected the footage to see daylight. And fury because she immediately understood the most terrifying truth. If one clip survived, there might be an entire archive. As one insider allegedly put it, she didn't think Piers had anything real. Now she realises he's been holding receipts for years. Within minutes of the clip circulating on X, Meghan was already on the phone. Not to Harry, not to friends, but to her lawyers. Her crisis team was activated before the hashtag even started trending. Half a dozen advisors summoned. Phones lighting up on every corner of that Montecito mansion. Security pacing. Assistants rushing between rooms with iPads and printouts like a political campaign in meltdown. This wasn't irritation. This was fear. Fear of what might be on the next tape. Fear of who else knew about the recordings. Fear of what could be exposed if Piers kept going. Because Meghan has always relied on one critical strategy: control the narrative before it controls you. But this time, she didn't have control. Piers Morgan did. And he wasn't just holding a microphone, he was holding her past. Her team began combing through every public and private relationship she'd ever had. People she worked with, people she cut off, people she forgot, anyone who might have said something on camera to Piers, or anyone else that she didn't know about. They weren't looking for the truth, they were looking for vulnerability. Meanwhile, Meghan reportedly went into a tailspin of questions. Who did he interview? When was this filmed? How much does he have? Why was it buried? Why now? And the one question no one wanted to answer: what if the palace knew all along? Because if the palace blocked the original broadcast, then someone in that room years ago heard the full conversation. Someone heard every sentence, every confession, every anecdote. Someone high up decided this couldn't air. And that meant someone, possibly many people, knew exactly what Meghan didn't want resurfacing. The panic wasn't just about Piers. It was about who else might have a copy. Inside Montecito, the energy turned nuclear. You could almost imagine Harry walking through the house, bewildered, watching phones blowing up, watching Meghan pace, watching her team scramble, and realising he had absolutely no idea what was happening. Because this was her past, not his. Her world, not his. Her hidden relationships, not his. And if she had confided ambitions or strategies in the past, if she had spoken openly about her long-term plans, Harry wouldn't have been there for any of it. That thought alone reportedly sent him spiralling. Meanwhile, Meghan's legal team began preparing the usual tactics: threaten the networks, demand takedowns, claim defamation, challenge copyright, accuse manipulation of footage, attempt to freeze Piers' access to distribution rights. But this wasn't 2020 anymore. This wasn't the Oprah era. This was 2025. And the public mood had changed. Even sympathetic outlets were cautious. No one wanted to defend Meghan without knowing what else Piers had in the vault. And that was the most dangerous shift. The fear wasn't the clip. It was the uncertainty. If this was the first recording Piers chose, what could possibly be on the 2nd, or the 3rd, or the 20th? Because the real power isn't in the footage itself. It's in the anticipation, the threat, the suspense. And Piers Morgan, love him or hate him, understands suspense better than anyone in British media. Meghan's meltdown wasn't paranoia, it was calculation. A person only panics this much when they know something else exists. Something worse, something buried, something recorded, something they can't control. And that, more than anything, is what Section 2 reveals. Meghan Markle did not panic because of the clip we saw. She panicked because of the clips we haven't seen yet. Here's what people forget about Piers Morgan. He thrives on conflict. He lives for a fight. He knows exactly when to escalate and exactly how to provoke maximum reaction. The moment Meghan's panic began leaking online, Piers turned up the heat. He didn't defend the clip. He didn't explain it. He didn't apologise. Instead, he leaned in. That evening, he tweeted, "If she's rattled now, she should really worry about clip number 2. Boom. Instant explosion. The media lit up. Commentators lost their composure. News anchors practically salivated. Because this wasn't Piers teasing. This was Piers issuing a warning, and Meghan's team knew it. If clip 1 caused this level of chaos, what on earth was in clip 2? If you're still watching, drop a comment below. Do you think Piers has more recordings, or is he bluffing? Insiders say Meghan reacted faster than her team expected. The moment the identity leak hit X and TikTok, she reportedly shut down all her scheduled calls, summoned PR advisors, contacted lawyers, ordered an urgent audit of old NDAs, asked who might still have access to recordings, requested to see who signed which interview agreements. This was not routine PR. This was fear, because what terrified Meghan wasn't the clip. It was the proof that someone close to her, someone she trusted, had spoken on camera years ago. And worse, the palace allegedly stopped the footage back then, which meant only one thing. Someone powerful thought those words were dangerous, and now Piers had them. Piers didn't wait days. He didn't build suspense for weeks. He dropped clip number 2 the very next night. No introduction, no explanation, just a cut straight to the blurred figure and that now infamous filtered voice saying, she never wanted to join the royal family. She wanted to outgrow them. If clip 1 cracked the narrative, clip 2 shattered it. Completely. Because this line didn't just question Meghan's intentions. It questioned the entire foundation of her royal story. Thousands of reactions poured in. Hosts debated motives. Journalists went into overdrive. Commentators couldn't believe what they were hearing. Meghan's image, already fragile, took a direct hit. If you want us to cover clip number 3 the moment it drops, make sure you're subscribed. Here's where things became truly unsettling. The palace said nothing. No distancing. No calming comments floated through royal reporters. No gentle reminders to respect privacy. Nothing. That kind of silence isn't neutrality. In this world, silence is a verdict. It signalled one thing and one thing only. They know what's on the rest of the tapes, and they're not stepping in. Sources claim Meghan's team noticed this immediately, and it terrified them. The monarchy may dislike chaos, but it never interferes unless it protects the institution. This time, it stayed out, which told Meghan everything she needed to know. She's on her own. With the internet having identified the voice, Meghan's team shifted targets. Now it wasn't about stopping Piers. It was about who talked, why now, what were they promised, what else did they record. Calls were made to old colleagues, producers, publicists, friends she'd cut off, associates from the early days. And the fear grew deeper. If one person had spoken in an unaired interview, how many others did? Piers teased more recordings, plural, which meant someone inside Meghan's past had opened a floodgate she can't shut. This part stunned the internet. Trevor Engelson, Meghan's ex-husband, hasn't spoken publicly in years, not once. Not even during the Oprah era. He is the single biggest missing piece in the Meghan Markle puzzle. And the moment Piers dropped clip 1, Trevor suddenly turned off Instagram comments, locked down his account, disappeared offline. People noticed instantly. Speculation exploded. Why now? Why vanish at the exact moment Meghan's past was being dredged up? Sources say Meghan's team reached out to him urgently, not for reconciliation, for containment, because Trevor, more than anyone, knows her before the palace, before the branding, before the carefully managed image. And if an old insider was now speaking, Trevor becoming involved, even silently, terrified her. By the time the second clip stopped trending, royal commentators were unanimous. This isn't a scandal, this is a battle. Piers Morgan isn't teasing for clout. He's unravelling a story he's been waiting years to tell. He has the tapes, he has the timing, and he has absolutely nothing left to lose. Meanwhile, Meghan, her team is exhausted. Her PR is overwhelmed. Her narrative is cracking faster than they can repair it. And Piers he ended his last broadcast with a line that felt less like a tease and more like a warning. We haven't even reached the real part of the interview. If this is only the beginning, imagine what comes next. This isn't Piers versus Meghan anymore. This is Piers versus the version of Meghan she wanted the world to believe. And he's just getting started.